I don't think people realize how fucking funny you are. You played him really smart and you played him very wise. He was masterful. There was so much nuance and he was cool and he was courageous and he was so likable. He was sexy.
Yeah.
Dan Fogler is a Tony Award-winning actor, writer, director, and comedian known for his roles in the Fantastic Beasts franchise, the true story behind the making of The Godfather and The Offer, Kung Fu Panda, and the Bob Dylan Oscar-nominated film A Complete Unknown.
Because you have to believe in those extra spirits to make magic, which is what we do.
Fuck. She also opened up your chakras, right? Did she what did she do?
My brother punched me in my balls so hard, shooting out of their third eye. I don't know why I'm telling this story. There was a reason that in the king's court that the jester, the fool, was often the only guy that the fucking king could go to give him a straight answer.
Jude Law is from a different time. Eddie Redmayne, what was his process? What was Timothy Chalamet like? Elle Fanning, Ed Norton, Johnny Depp, did you have any?
I haven't told anybody this, but I'm talking about now. Okay.
So I'm curious what your take is on that.
Let me think.
It's a whole nother level. A whole nother level. A whole nother level.
When I had saw you in Fantastic Beasts, and I'm such a huge Harry Potter fan, but the thing about it was you had such a nuance to the character that you played that it could be interpreted as this, he's a muggle, he's this kind of dopey guy, and you didn't play it like that. What was so interesting is that you played him really smart and you played him very kind of wise, and that he was limited in a way, but you played it there was so much nuance, and he was cool and he was courageous and he was so likable, and he was sexy. It just, yes.
Yeah.
So
She said it.
honestly,
I didn't say it.
but I think what was it just, you played such it felt, and I feel like I saw also your soul on the screen and all these different levels and characters and all these different parts of you, and it was just and it was masterful because you have Eddie Redmayne, you have Johnny Depp, you have incredible fucking cast, and you're stealing every scene. It's just every scene you're just making it a masterpiece. I don't know. So I was just that's so interesting.
Wow. That is interesting.
That was my 2 cents. That is my 2 cents. How did you get into that character? So 2 things that I rewatching Take Me Home Tonight. It holds up so fucking well.
Nice.
It holds up so well, and you're effortlessly funny, and there's so much nuance in every step of the way. It's I don't think people realize how fucking funny you are. Anyway,
Yeah.
me and Dan Anderson talk about this a lot.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, yes, you're right. I think people don't realize how funny. I think that movie in particular, I'm right in my wheelhouse of joy and zaniness, and if there's other movies that that was probably the most fun comedy I worked on.
It was so good.
But there's sometimes a comedy is not fun at all. It's just that's
Yeah, no, it's just
where each joke is just you're mining for gold. It's that sometimes thank God you're on a movie and you're surrounded by people and the chemistry good and you can just have a fun time and be yourself a lot of the time, and then it's just kind of fluid and easy.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
take me home tonight. I mean, it's just like literally you're just giving gold in every scene, in every single moment, in every scene. I'm in awe. I
Well,
have
the
such a like awe and respect. I'm like, because I'm just watching him like, how does he do it? Like I'm just like, like he's just so good.
I don't know. I got good editors. I throw a lot. I throw a lot at the wall, see what sticks.
That's
Let
fair.
the director, you know, uh, try to guide me. And if I don't get much guidance, I really try to. I don't know. I'll go and I'll watch the dailies or whatever, and I'll try to I'll try to just kind of hone in on what's best, for
Yeah.
character. But I for Fantastic Beasts, thank you for saying all these lovely things, by the way. I
No, I mean it. I really mean it. Like I love you. Like I just fucking love you. Like I just like it's just you're so like it's such a joy that that you're a wonderful person and you've become a dear friend in my life, but then to also at the same time like watch your work and it's magnificent. Like it's inspiring because it's just like you're masterful.
wow. Can I just have this as like a calling card?
Yes.
Send this ahead of
Yeah.
my auditions. Uh,
But it's so good. Like I don't know if
I
that has been said, but it's like I just see you and I see your work and you bring so much of your soul because I know you. So I'm seeing like your heart and soul on the screen. And it's really cool because it's like it's the best of you, that I get to see and it's just so masterful and well thought out and it's like it feels very, very thoughtful. One of my best friends, because I was like, you have to watch his stuff. Like he's so good. And she was like, she wasn't like Fantastic Beasts wasn't her favorite of the Harry Potter world, but she loved you in it. She was like, "Oh, he's great." And she's not one to give a compliment. So I was like, "Yeah, I told you. Like he's amazing." She's like, "I see why you guys are friends." Like
I yeah, I've been blessed with some really amazing parts, and just trying to analyze what you're throwing at me. I I I think that like someone like Jacob Kowalski, um, I try to find what is like myself in a character, and start from there, like kind of grow a character out of that. That's how I was
mhm,
taught, basically. And I've done it
mhm.
in different ways. I've done it like reverse ways and sideways, but my main way of finding a character is starting with myself and say, what do I have in common with this person, and grow
And
it.
then you dial it up, right?
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
yeah, and do research on stuff you don't know about, and and do sense memory stuff with other stuff and replacement, uh like exercises, basically. But 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 for Kowalski, uh I I was blessed with being like, whoa, this guy is like, not only is he very close to me, but he felt like he was blood. He felt like he was like my great grandfather, like literally, who was a baker.
Totally.
Who my great grandfather was a baker, and he was on Stanton and Rivington, and so there was like real life magic like backing all this up. So I was like, holy shit. Okay, so this is not only is this guy really close to me, but it's an opportunity to like step back in time, and so there's, and especially that first movie. Those movies were my first introduction to like gigantic romantic Hollywood movies and franchise and all that. And so if there's a gleam in my eye, or Jacob's eye being like, oh my God, this is amazing. That was me. I was like, hope I this is wow, boy, this is awesome. Like I was.
And that's exactly how you played it. You played it with awe, but you played it with courage. Like you played it. He was so smart. There was a point. I forget where you were walking. You were, I guess, time traveling somewhere, or you were whatever you transported. You got transported somewhere. And
Okay.
somehow you were all knowing and wise. Like it was, and that's my experience of how I know you. But like I feel like how someone might play this character is kind of like more muggly of like, oh, I don't know anything. Oh my God, I'm so stupid. Like you didn't play it that way at all. Like, you know what I mean? Oh, I'm so stupid. I'm a dopey person. Like I just like
Yeah.
he was sexy. Your character, I'm just going to say it. He was sexy. He was a motherfucking sexy guy. He had it, like, he had a lot going. And you're like, fucking yeah. Like, you have a hot babe, you know?
That's right. It makes sense.
It makes sense.
I had to make that make sense.
Yeah. But you had like bravado and so it was really cool because it like in every scene, you stole a lot of the scenes.
Wow. Yeah, he like okay, well, if you can't figure out how to get some swagger with the
Swagger,
mustache
that's what it is.
and the suit and the time period and the
Yeah.
jazz of it all, if you don't have that
Yeah.
then that's tough. It's tough to look charismatic. But I put all that into the character. All of those great black and white silent movie characters, Chaplin and and the archetypical characters of like Nathan and Adelaide, with me and Allison as Queenie, and
Queenie.
Sherlock and Watson with Newt. And so like I was very aware of
Sherlock and Watson. You mean Jude Law and
Sherlock and Watson, I mean the archetypical characters that you think of when you see it's also Laurel and Hardy, when you see me and Eddie together, that image. And when you talk about intelligence, he's streetwise. Jacob is streetwise, but he doesn't know very much about books. And
right.
he is worldly in the sense that he had to go to war. And he made it all the way here on his own to America,
Yeah.
But he's streetwise, and that's why he compliments Eddie, who is
Who's
bookwise.
bookwise.
Yes, and so that's that relationship. And then if you have a very attractive woman who finds you attractive, it's not hard to look attractive.
But I felt the chemistry. Like I felt it. Like it felt like a real relationship and a real dynamic, and you complemented each other really well. And you were like I said, you're the best thing in that movie. Like Eddie's amazing, and I've seen him in Cabaret, and I'm blown away by what he's doing in Cabaret. I'm just like, holy shit, wow.
Yeah.
But sorry, not sorry. You're the best thing in the film. Like to me, like you were doing a lot more, and I thought that there was so much more levels and nuance.
Wow. Well, that's very nice of you to say.
Okay, and how was it working with some of these amazing heavy hitters like Jude Law
Like Jude,
and wait, did you worked with Johnny Depp? Did you have any?
Man,
yeah.
Well, let's talk about Johnny for a second, because just a huge fan of Johnny's going into it, and then during rehearsals on the second movie was when I had the most interaction with him, really.
Mhm.
because he did that big scene where he's in the center of the like this mausoleum, and he's orchestrating, and and all the different wizards from all different walks of life are watching him, and then me, this little mouse, walks in amongst all these cats and is like, where's Queenie? And I had that scene, but I'm basically in the crowd, trying to find her, but just watching him, um you know be the man at the center of the ring there. And so I had rehearsals basically where we would break, and this one time I was sitting outside just getting some air, and he walked past in full costume. And he's like, "Hey man, you want to come into the warming tent?" And I was just like,
He
"Oh,
does like, "Hey, man." Yeah, that sounds like him, yeah.
yeah." And he's got this, like, you know, everyone's got to walk all the way back to the trailers, but he's got this tent that's right off thing, so he can just go, and it's nice and warm in there. It was like freezing outside, so I was like, "Yeah."
Mhm.
I go into the tent, and he's just sitting there, and long story short, I'm just sitting across from him, and just the sight of him in full Grindelwald costume, makeup with the eye,
Bleached blonde hair in the
the
eyes, yeah.
swooping hair, and he's just "Hey man, you want to hear a song that I've been working on?" And then he and I was like, "This is so freaking surreal." That was the peak of the surrealness of that moment. I'll get into other things some other
That's
time.
amazing. Oh
Yeah,
my god.
yeah.
Oh,
So
do you have more stories about Johnny?
yeah, man, he was just cool. He was like,
He's very cool.
I was,
I've met him once. Yeah, he's
yeah,
cool.
and basically in that meeting, I took it as an opportunity to like do my own little interview, and just be like, "So, like, tell me like everything about your career." And he was like, "Yeah, sure, man."
What did he say? That's
and I
amazing.
was asking him about
That's
Brando and shit, um and like, you gotta ask, like, he worked with Brando, so you gotta ask about Brando. And
Wait, when did he work with Brando
he
again?
was
Was that
Don Juan DeMarco.
Yes.
Yeah.
What was that experience like? What did he say?
Yeah, he was. I asked. I came at it from this angle. I was like, "Hey, man, I heard this story where the first time he met Brando, he had one of those like little like fart machines, and Johnny confirmed it. He's like, yes, it was one of the most hilarious moments of my life." Where he's sitting across from Marlon Brando, and he's like, "So, Johnny, tell me about yourself." You know, and Johnny was like, "Hey, man, you got to get that checked, you know?" Critical.
It was a fart machine. It was a fart machine?
Yeah, he had like one of those little handheld, like Leslie Nielsen brings them onto talk shows sometimes. You ever seen those? You know what I'm talking about?
He's such an absurd human. Oh my god, so he's a trickster. That's
Oh,
amazing.
Brando, yeah, total trickster.
Uh,
And then so the two of them were like, "Hey, we got to go." They had to go to this big like press meeting afterward, and they were like, "Let's bring the fart machine." And the two of them passed the fart machine under the table. We're like, "Oh, so."
they're like 10 years old. They're literally 10 years old.
Yeah,
Oh my god.
I love that.
That's amazing. Oh my god. Wait, okay, so were you what's really interesting, it's so full circle that you did the offer, because that's kind of like involving Brando and, playing the Godfather. Like, you were playing the director. And also, again, you're always like, to me, okay, I feel very strongly, but you're always like one of the best things in the things that you do. And so
Wow.
you played God, what's his name? Oh my God.
Coppola.
Coppola. Yeah. And so since you were playing like a real life person, what was diving into a real life person, how did you get in, and how did you find, like, what were the dials? Like, did you find the similarities where you guys were alike? And then how did you find those levels and then
Yeah.
dial them up or dial them down?
Yeah, it was a similar thing where I already had so much um visual,
Hmm.
references because he's done so much behind the scenes stuff. He did Hearts of Darkness. There was stuff with from of him um from even before Hearts of Darkness. Like there's like
That's a wild documentary, man.
Hearts of Darkness. Yeah, if
Yeah.
you haven't seen that, it's about the making of Apocalypse Now, and it was made by Coppola's wife, and it's a brilliant documentary because she realized while they were making Apocalypse Now, she was like, "Oh my god, the making of this is incredible!" And she made a movie out of it. And you see, like, if you're trying to make them, if there are filmmakers out there, they have to see Hearts of Darkness because
Yeah.
they made a movie under the craziest of circumstances. They recreated Vietnam. Um, and there's a famous moment where Coppola is in a press conference in the middle of all this, and it was getting such crazy press. Apocalypse Now, they were like, "This
Yeah.
movie is insane. It's never gonna get finished. It's gonna go on for another 30 years." And then, and Coppola says, "This movie," and he says it so seriously. That's the joy of Coppola, is that he literally got up in front of all these people wondering like, what's going on with this movie, and he got up and he says, this movie isn't about war. This movie is war.
Dwarf.
The audacity. That's Coppola, baby. Yeah.
No, but wait,
Because
but wait.
he knew at that moment that he was, Brando. He had become his own, crazy villain in his own movie. What a lunatic. I love Coppola. Coppola is a living legend. Like, thank God for people like him making movies like Megalopolis, and like, yes, go forth, sir. Let your freak flag fly. Continue. Make as many crazy freaking things as possible. Because like that's what we need. We need that. We need someone to hold a torch out and say, yeah, take some freaking risks, man. Like,
Yep.
yeah, and
Yep.
so that's
Go
why.
big or go home. Yep.
So
Fuck.
I had Hearts of Darkness to watch, and anyone who makes movies should watch Hearts of Darkness.
But also, real quick, I just want to add in there that it was the interesting thing about doing art. It's such an alchemical experience where it, like, literally, like, this is war. So it's like I've noticed that if you're telling a story, it starts to like permeate in your life. Like, whatever's happening, it translates into your life, or vice versa. Your life translates. You book the role because it's like whatever's happening in your life at the time. Like,
Oh,
it's really, really weird and cosmic, and and so I think that was really interesting where you see this. It nearly killed everyone on set, like, doing a movie about war. You're bringing in that energy, you're bringing in that demon energy, so then it just suddenly spreads out, like, through the whole, like, cast and crew, which I really think I want to also get into at some point. But, like, do you think that that's true, this alchemical kind of experience?
yeah. Oh, and I know that you know Coppola, for one, believed in the theater gods and being on his side, and luck, and because you have to believe in those those extra spirits,
Yeah.
in order to make magic, which is what we do.
Fuck.
He had
Yeah.
he had a thing that he did, and it's in Hearts of Darkness, the Pawaba Pawaba Pawaba, where he had everyone grab hands in a circle before they started shooting, and everyone had to say at the same exact time, Pawaba Pawaba Pawaba, and he was doing that since his theater days, and whenever he did that, he had a good production. So that was his little ritual, and yeah, I think that he stirred up the elements. Man, you can't have
Yeah.
that kind of energy swirling around and not not whip up the ether. Uh, it's just it's what we do. It's like when you're on
Mm.
stage and things are going well and you can feel that crackling in the air. I mean, there's
Mm.
that's it, man. That's everybody focused. That whole room, all that focus all at once. That's the electricity. That's the energy. That's real,
Yeah,
you know.
it is real.
Um and that's focusing on fantasy. Imagine what we
Yeah.
do if we were focusing on real life. And that's like you want to get into Maharishi effect and all that. And um that's
Yeah, I do.
when you get like that's when you get like a bunch of like-minded psychics. And this is, you can look this up. They did experiments. You get all these psychics, let's say this 500 meditating in front of the fucking White House, and then they actually did this experiment where in the few hours that they meditated, crime dropped to zero.
This
And,
was What the Bleep Do You Know?
oh, okay, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
that's real. It's
it's
real.
a thing, man. You get enough people focusing on the same subject, and you could
You can
influence
heal.
in real
Yeah,
time. Yeah,
in real time, 100%.
yeah. How do we get to that? It's awesome.
Yo, but I love this shit. Yeah, I mean, this is actually the conversations that we have all the time where we're getting out there. Remember that I
Yeah.
want to get back to the Coppola and how you got into it, but real quick,
Okay.
just for the audience, where when my friend had passed away and you were just like, you're like, hey man, like like we went to go grab a coffee, we were supposed to hang out. I was like, I don't
Yeah.
know if I'm feeling great. I was like, I feel kind of manic. Like I was like, like I didn't
Yeah.
feel very tethered to the ground, and I felt like really just my heart had just been like ripped apart just from my mother passing away suddenly, and then my friend suddenly also passing away. And I remember just this like magical, kind of like this weird, crazy day that we had, that we like will suddenly, like I would think something and then you would
Yeah.
say it. Like it was this wild shit. Remember, where I was like thinking, I was like, wow, that statue sure looks like Ghostbusters too. That guy from the painting who was like this, who
Oh
was like the
shit.
evil guy.
Yeah.
And then you were like, hey, that guy looks like the
Yeah.
guy from Ghostbusters too. And I was like, motherfucker. I was like, how is this? So there was no, it was like there was no separation, where I feel, we have that like spiritual connection where I feel also in, I don't know, in death, where you get to see more and the veil gets more removed. And then there's like weirdly more connection. And I also find in art and in death, or in like giving birth, in that like space, there's this more like palatable connection of like telepathy and the spiritualness of connection. Does that make sense? Like it's like it
Veil
removes
is
the
thinner. Yeah.
the veil is thinner and there's less space between two people. Like it's suddenly like there's more telepathy. There's more like, I think when we were
Well,
back in the day, we were
you are very sensitive. You're very sensitive to that stuff, and
yeah.
so am I. Everybody is an antenna, uh,
Yeah.
and some people can 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 give and receive, and some people just receive, and some people just give, and so there's all sorts of different styles, and I think like people are starting to figure out what they are, because
Yeah.
it's not just a few kooky people, it's everybody. It's everybody, and so yeah, so when you and I get together, yeah, man, we there is definitely uh getting on the same frequency. It's like radio frequency,
Yeah.
tuning into the same.
Yeah. Yeah. I find that you also said something that's kind of stayed with me, where, it's something I already know, but it's you attract the vibration that you are. So it's like if you want to attract like amazing project, movie, lots of money, you have to be on that vibration, and I kind of it's like merging future you with current you. So like whatever um
Mm.
so it's like you're skipping ahead. Okay, what would if I had $100 million, how would I be thinking? How would I be behaving? And then you're like, would I have less fear? Would I have less anxiety? And how do you merge those two, like where I am right now, you know?
What the blessing is for us actors is that that's that's the language that it operates in, is emotions and
Oh
believing.
yeah.
So we got a head start for manifestation, because that's what it is.
We could totally, we could just pretend. We're like, hey, I'm
Oh,
100 million, I've got $100
you
million.
have
Oh my God.
yeah, as long as you're in that mindset and you're acting like, yeah,
Fuck yeah.
I have this already, and
Yeah,
this is in my life already, and
totally.
and you own the confidence of that, and you can attract exactly what you want in your life.
Yeah. Okay, let's go back to Coppola. So what parts did you dial up? What parts did you dial
Yeah,
down?
yeah.
Which parts were like you? What did you figure out? What did you discover?
So, um, he is one of these. So I had all of that research material, visual research material. I also had his notebook, which is like, you can buy this thing. It's basically what he used when he directed The Godfather, where he, from his theater days, he cut out all the pages that he wanted from the novel, and he pasted them in this larger book that had room in the margins for notes. So I had this giant freaking tome of his, where in the margins were all of his worries, all of his casting ideas, all of his like the subtext of scenes, and it's like, oh, we got it.
Wow.
So I had all of that at my fingertips, and you can watch that in the offer. That's like of what I'm carrying around the whole time in the offer, and because we recreated it, and you can, like I said, you can go out and buy the Godfather notebook and see all of this and really get a glimpse of how his brain works. So I knew all of his insecurities and all of that going into it. And
What were his insecurities?
well, come on, he didn't really have much to to prove himself before this. You know,
Yeah.
he had a win as a writer, but no one had ever seen him as a director. So he was coming on board to this, just like Pacino, just like a lot of like young, hungry guys who had to prove themselves.
Yeah.
And and so this guy really had to deal with, like, you look at Apocalypse Now and you're like, oh, okay, I can believe that that guy made that movie because he went through the gauntlet that he had to go through in order to make The Godfather. Like, no other person could have made Apocalypse Now. And so I had all of that as a reference to the kind of person
Mhm.
he was. And then I said, oh yeah,
Mhm.
I understand that. I understand being young and hungry and wanting to prove myself. And I understood sometimes
Mhm.
the idea of, how do I say this? Maybe being the smartest person in the room, but not having enough experience so that you have to bite your tongue. You gotta prove yourself first. Like, I understood that concept, and
Do you feel that a lot of times?
I I I know that I have definitely been in rooms when I was coming up where I was sitting there and said, okay, I have to. I
Hold
mean,
my tongue.
I'm a young actor, and sometimes you're dealing with you know directors that um are people that you know are people that you have to deal with in order to continue your career, and sometimes they don't know
Mhm.
what the fuck they're talking.
What they're doing. They don't know what they're doing. They have no idea what
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
doing.
yeah, that happens a lot. But
Yeah. How did you navigate that, by the way?
I
Like,
don't
what was your skill set? Like, how do you hold your tongue? How'd you navigate the politics? Because there is a lot of politics in this game. You know, there's so much politics.
Yeah. Well, I I found it very helpful. I found it very helpful to have directed my own thing, which you know very well about.
Mhm,
It's
mhm,
good to direct things because
mhm.
um and because you get a sense and as wear as many hats as you can producing,
Yeah,
because then you get a
yeah,
you start to respect and understand what people have to go through in order to birth a film. And so yeah, so I directed stuff so that when I come on stage, come on a project, I um I, I look to the director as my captain. That's my captain. That guy. I am stepping
yep.
on. It's a ship's journey. We are looking for adventure, and we're gonna go out on we're going to brave the seven seas. And sometimes we're gonna fuck.
Together, and you're gonna trauma bond.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. You're gonna and hope. Yeah, exactly. And everybody is on that ship together, and we're looking to that captain to steer us in the right direction, and we're looking
Yep,
for that captain to help us find gold. We're out to find
gold.
gold. It's like where it's a treasure hunt, and and sometimes you bring back gold. And then sometimes you're fucking lost at sea. But that's what it is.
Mm, you're lost at sea.
Yeah, for months, for years. you know, for fucking anyway. So so I look to the director, and so there's a lot of responsibility for that director.
Yeah.
And there can be a director that can steer you into the worst storms possible, but you still go with them because you're like, yeah, you're smart. I like you. I like I like your vision, and then you realize after the storm, you're like, oh my God, that storm got gold out of us. It's like that's the joy of these productions, and
Yeah.
that's why you sign on every single time. Who's the captain? I've
Who's the
never heard it.
captain?
Through it. Let's freaking go. That's why you do it, because of the potential to bring back gold, the potential to bring back that magical story.
Yeah. Yeah.
So so I've been on many ships, and you realize that sometimes it's better to hold your tongue than to say something, because if you say something, it's fucking mutiny, and then the whole fucking
Oh, it's mute.
no, and then you're lost at sea. And so it's better than to be like, yes, I will hoist the mizzen main like this.
I was just listening to something where, there were these two actors talking, and they were just talking about the process of trusting a director, where sometimes it's like, it's people with trust issues. Like sometimes I also, like, if I really like trust my director and the people, like the crew and everything, like the project that I worked with my best friends, I knew that I could kind of step back and just kind of lose myself. When you
Yeah,
feel really like taken care of in the whole team, it's like
yeah.
everyone knows each other. We worked with each other before. We're best friends. Like it was, and
Uh-huh.
we all had each other's backs. And it's very rare that I feel I can trust, because I think sometimes you're like, do you even know you're like, are we seeing the same things on the monitor? Are you going to see that? Like, do you know what I'm saying? Where it's, oh, wait, hold on. Is it
Absolutely.
where, oh, right. And so like, what's really interesting. And so these two actors were like, it's hard to let go. But if you have, say, like a Coppola, or if you have like, James Mangold, for instance, you felt that you could just be like, you got it. I'm in good hands and I can just like surrender.
Perfect example. Because Mangold never been on a set like that for a complete unknown, and so excited to see what happens. And it's so close. Like I've never been on a production where we were finishing up in the summer, And the early summer, and now it's like, hey, now it's coming out this year. I usually have to wait a year. This
Yeah.
so being on a production where you have a director who is, I'll give you an example. It's like a slice of life here. So
Mm.
you you walk on set and you're like, oh my God, this is like a perfect recreation of this festival from 1969, and like
Yeah.
everyone looks
Wait, to
perfect.
give to give context real quick, we're talking about A Complete Unknown with Timothy Chalamet, Elle Fanning, James Mangold directing, and what's his name? Oh my God, he was the Hulk. Why am I forgetting his name? I love him.
Ed Norton, yeah.
Ed Norton. Thank you. He's
Yeah, yeah,
amazing. Yeah.
yeah. So
Killer cast. It's like it looks amazing. The trailer crushes. He sounds like fucking Bob Dylan. Are you kidding me? Are you
yeah.
kidding me?
And I'm playing Albert Grossman, who is his manager. Okay.
Yeah.
And so I'm like this like eccentric, you know, manager who's seeing the birth of Dylan. And it's just like, oh, money signs. So that's basically me. And I have this like um front row seat to every single time Timothy performed. And I was just like, wow, like what the I was just off stage just watching, just like always just right there watching this cat just rock. And
You
like,
literally didn't have to act. There was no acting involved. You were just like,
no,
it's Bob Dylan.
that's exactly that was a huge part of it too, because Albert, just like Jacob was supposed to be in awe of all the wizards, Albert was in awe of all of this talent that was just popping up all around him. And he was like, I am at the center of this and I am going to control all of these people. And so that's what it was. So I was in awe. First day on set, it's like, there's Ed Norton. There's Tim just playing like flawless Dylan. And I'm just like, wow. So there was a certain amount of getting the blood pressure to come down, you know. Mangold, who is like has made some of my favorite films, Copland, Logan, like fucking Walk the Line, who he introduced me to freaking, to Johnny Cash, and just like, okay, we are in good hands. He made one of my favorite music related movies in Walk the Line, and he's
Same.
now he's doing the same thing here. And so it was just it was one of those times where it did not take me long to just sit back and just let the guy tell me wherever you want me to go, I'll go. Whatever you need, I totally trust your vision. Like I just like day one, like whatever you need, man. Like you let me know. And I think I'm pretty sure he appreciated that.
Yeah.
Because here he was walking around giving people uh little perfect little psychological uh you know fortune cookie uh poems, to help them with it. It's like, you're a you're a tiger in the woods, and you're looking for a meal, and then like you see that in that some I'm just totally paraphrasing, but he would say things like that to somebody, and they would just be like, perfect, got it. So to see somebody who, and just the ability for someone to just be like, blah, and walk away like that alone, you're just like, oh, thank God. Like I didn't have to sit for an hour and contemplate the universe. The guy went blah, I knew exactly what I needed, and here we go. We can get right back to it. It's just like we're moving here. It's a train in motion, and you get to a scene like, oh, we're doing an entire festival here. This is going to take
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
day, from every single angle. And he's like, no, this is an intimate scene that happens to take place and with the backdrop of this. So we're going to get this angle and this angle, and we're out of here. And to hear him,
Wow.
because he sees it all in his head. He's got the movie in his head already. And you're just like, whoa.
He's editing in his head.
Yes, and
Yeah.
not only is he editing in
Yeah.
his head, he's editing. He's like he'll come in, and while he's giving that direction and saying, "Oh, okay, we're perfectly streamlining this day. By the way, we cut that scene together, and it's great." And, it's just like what the what? Well, okay, and he's like, "Oh, I got to steal this little moment from you later. Don't worry about it. We'll get it when you're not even looking." It's like, "Oh, okay," and it was like that kind of like. So I know that the movie is filled with his little brilliant jigsaw pieces that he just caught because he
That's amazing.
piecing it together as we were going. So when you see that kind of genius happening before you, you just fucking sit back, take notes, and just do your job. And that's what I did.
What was his fortune cookie that he gave you?
Go after her smile. Like you're hunting for her smile, a little bit of smile in the scene, like a bloodhound, hunts for a prisoner. I was like, oh shit.
Whoa!
Yeah.
Damn! Oh shit!
Yeah. I was like, okay, man. But he was right.
Wait, for Elle Fanning to hunt for her smile?
No. Joan Baez. I have the scene with the
Joan
yeah.
Baez. Oh
There's a
my
scene where
God.
I'm trying to like basically poach her. Basically, my character poaches all of.
Whoa. And how did you approach that? What was your approach to being a bloodhound? How did you?
Well, I was just hanging on it. I was just like, because she's such a serious character, and I say
Yeah.
this thing, and she gives me the slightest little smile, and I was just like, yeah. I don't know how it's gonna come out on screen, but I think he loved it. So we'll see what happens.
That's incredible. How many takes would he do? Would he do a lot of takes? Is he like
I didn't
like a
know.
Fincher or?
I think he was the kind of guy who would keep going until he got what he wanted. So if you got it in 3 takes, 2 takes, he was like, "Great, let's fucking move on."
Wow.
He was very happy about. Or if you
Great.
still you weren't giving him what he wanted, you were there. But I didn't have many of those.
Got
Oh,
it.
oh.
Oh,
But
oh.
I was I was I was sidelined to one of those moments. It wasn't my scene though. It wasn't my scene.
What happened? Oh, you were sidelined to one of those moments where they weren't
Yeah,
getting it. They just
I
kept
was
going
watching
and
it.
kept going and kept going, kept
Yeah,
going.
I had the
Did
next.
the actor get frustrated?
Well, in that particular moment, like I said, you have Mangold, who you got to come and be like, this guy's a genius. Just listen to what he
Yep.
says. So if you, for some reason, have something that's outside of that box that doesn't
Mm-hmm.
that takes time to actually
Mm-hmm.
work through, and you got everyone
Oh.
around, um,
So
and
like blocks, there's certain blocks that people have is what you're talking about?
well,
Like
I
if
think
there's a block or
well, just like Mangold is bringing his vision to the table. I think we all like it isn't until much till very recently that I was able to flow like that, because a couple of years back, let's say 5 years ago, or probably more, let's say 7, I would come to a set and you would be like, oh, that's not how I had it in my head.
Yeah, exactly.
and then-
Exactly.
and you've rehearsed it, in your head like 1,000 times this direction, but it's fucking over here, and you got to do this and all this, and
Right,
so
right, right.
you would have to be malleable to that, and it's so much easier to be malleable to that if you just if you know it well enough where you can come there and just be like, all right, I'm just going to drape this over anything you give me, and we're going to have fun doing it. But sometimes, so in that regard, you'll have people who are very smart, very cerebral, think about the text. They come with a certain idea of how something is played, and sometimes it It doesn't work with the director's vision. And sometimes
Mm,
and you have to know your audience. You have to go, okay,
mhm,
this director has a vision here that's very powerful, and you got to trust it,
mhm,
and you got to say yes. Let's see it your way. And
mhm,
can I
mhm,
try it just over here later?
mhm.
Try this once we get it? I find that 9 times out of 10, the director is going to love the fact that you're putting a button on the scene, put,
Mhm,
uh,
mhm,
putting a little prefix to the scene, but don't
mhm.
fuck with their scene, especially if the guy is the writer. You know, the guy who wrote it, he's directed it, he's
Yeah, yeah. He knows exactly what he
knows what he
wants. Yeah.
wants. So figure it out. Come to set and just
Yeah.
do your thing. You know, sometimes you do. You have a genius idea. Squeeze it in
Mm,
there after a couple takes of his. That's my advice.
mhm, mhm. So, how was that like getting into that character? Because it feels to me like hearing that you played a character somewhat different. Like, because I feel like when I see Fantastic Beasts, I'm like, that felt right when I said like I saw your soul on the screen, and I think I was correct in that, where I saw like so much of you in that, which is why I think you embodied it so well, like the Fantastic Beasts. I haven't seen the James Mangold yet, but I mean, I feel now it's like further from you, or it's like a different version, or like if you had a set of circumstances, maybe it could be that, you know?
Yeah, you know what I did? I did like if like I always start from myself and um
Mm-hmm.
but if I get to a certain point where I'm like I got to fill in the gaps here,
Mm-hmm.
I'll do. And there was a very revealing scene in a documentary um with Bob Dylan, and Albert was the producer on it, and he put a scene of himself in it where he's doing like a it's like the art of the deal. He's like getting a good deal for Bob. There's this scene of him, and I saw that scene. I was like, what kind of producer, what kind of a mind must you have? What kind of an ego must you have in order to put this scene, this movie about your client, to show the world that you're working for him? You know, it's like what an interesting
Yeah, yeah,
what a
yeah.
interesting glimpse into his psychology. And then there was another scene where I saw where he was protecting his Bob in a hotel. It's like they were partying too loud, and he came out and he wasn't took on the manager of the hotel and the bellhop, and he was just like, leave him alone. You know, I just love that, like him protecting his client like a big papa bear. And
Yeah.
so I saw that, and I saw so they were very educational moments. And then to fill in the other stuff, I was like, ooh, yeah, like he is he's kind of like I do a lot of animal work, you know. So I'll be like, oh, he's like a bear. He's like a protective bear who is very sweet and very, cuddly. But if you fuck with him or his clients or his family, he'll
Ah.
he'll rip your head off, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's helpful going into the animal kingdom uh, to
Totally.
fill in some of the blanks. Um, and yeah, he's such an interesting, larger than life character, Albert. Um, that I also kind of peppered in um, the aspect of the storyline of the myth that
Hmm.
Bob went to the crossroads. And Bob, I haven't told anybody this, but I'm talking about it now. Who cares? But
Yeah.
Bob, how the story is like, Bob basically sold his soul like a lot of guitarists and a lot of artists for their skills. And he talks about this in all sorts of interviews, and this is like a known thing.
So many interviews. Oh
Yeah,
my
yeah.
God. Yeah.
So I was like, ooh, going along that, tall tale mythology, I was like, I would love underneath to have Albert as maybe just like an agent from down
To
below.
selling his soul.
Yeah,
Yeah.
down
An
below.
agent down below of
Yeah.
selling his soul. Oh my
Yeah.
God. That famous interview was like ABC or
Yeah,
something, or
yeah.
CBS, or like 60 Minutes, where he was like, well, I sold sold my soul. I had to make a
Yeah, yeah.
contract, with the man. And you're like, well, which man are you talking about? Is
This
it
is
God or is it the devil?
so this is
Like,
yeah, so I mean there's a lot of stories about how guitarists went to the crossroads, made a deal. And so I was
what does that look like? Is it the Illuminati? Is it the Illuminati and they're all demons just preying on him? Like,
oh
I really want to
shit.
know. I have so
I
many
like
questions.
just like the sci-fi fantasy brain of mine, like I like to imagine like it was more like a Stephen King situation, where
Whoa.
like they
Yeah.
went to the crossroads in the middle of a desert somewhere. They followed some map, and then some guy in a black fedora and a black suit was just like, "You."
The black hat. Do you hear about this guy with the black hat that just suddenly sometimes mythically shows up? The guy, it's called the guy with the black hat.
Oh yeah,
Did you hear about this?
no,
Okay,
jeez.
wait,
No,
wait, wait. Hold on. Black
no.
hat. Black hat.
Yeah.
What is the Hat Man? Shadow people. It's like a figure
Oh
that like
shit.
shows up, that like will show up. I guess the Hat Man, shadowy figure that appears in bedrooms when people are falling asleep or waking up. The Hat Man is a shadow person, a paranormal, but also can like show up in waking life. But he's
You ever seen Amazing Stories?
no.
So there was an episode of Amazing Stories called The Shadow Man. That was basically this
Ooh.
like two-dimensional shadow person that I think he had a
Mm-hmm.
hat and like a cloak,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
he he talks to this kid and is just like, "Hey kid, you getting bullied at school?" And the kid's like, "Yeah," and he's just like, "I'm gonna take care of your bullies for you." Anyway, long story short, me and my brother watched this episode together of the Shadow Man, who like comes up from the floor as like this perfect two-dimensional shadow. So I don't know why I'm telling this story. That night, that night, I crept into my brother's room with a blanket on in the middle of the night. And I stood up by his bed and I was like, I am the Shadow Man.
The shadow.
And before I could finish my sentence, my brother punched me in my balls so hard. Oh, that was bad. And he was just like, "Oh my God, I thought you were the Shadow Man." Why did I
He
tell
really
this?
believed it.
No,
I
he
don't
was.
know. I think it's amazing. I think it's so funny. Wait, because we were talking about, okay, the deal with the devil. You said that there was that the part that you said you haven't told anyone before? Hold on. What was the part?
Oh yeah,
You're
no.
like, I haven't told
This was like
about Bob Dylan.
this was like because I didn't have any like. I basically made this sandwich of a character before I even got the set. There wasn't any really direction. Basically, the first, as far as character went, it was just like bringing the character to set, and then telling me, letting Jim tell me where to go. Basically. But
Yeah.
yeah, because we had no rehearsal process. It was just like so. And I knew there wasn't going to be a rehearsal process, and I knew that we were just going to be, shot right out of the cannon and just start shooting. So I was like, "Ooh, how many ingredients can I add to this goulash?" And basically the final ingredient was, "Ooh, let's take a book from the page of this mythology." And I didn't tell anybody. That was just my secret, that Albert was maybe there as an agent of chaos, pushing him toward electric.
And that makes so much more sense, that that if James Mangold was like, you're a bloodhound, like trying to sniff for her smile or something, that
Well, yeah, he
you
had a
know
lot.
like
He had a lot of animal like references in
that's
the direction.
awesome.
So I took that as a cue. Like, yeah, this guy is, whatever he meant by them, but it worked.
Similar.
Yeah,
It was definitely, you were on the same
primal.
page. Like Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And what was Timothy Chalamet like? Was he completely method? Was he fully immersed? Was he like answering like Bob Dylan? Like what? Tell me
He
what was
was,
happening.
I'm sure that there were moments where I overstepped and like walked in on him trying to get in character, be in character. And he was
Mhm.
so sweet to me. I'm sure that if I was somebody else, he might have just acted differently or something. I have no idea. But to me,
Yeah.
he was always like, "Oh yeah, no, come in here, man. Don't worry about it. Come." And he always let me share his outdoor space to get air, and he was totally such a sweetheart. And there, but yeah, he was in fucking character. Like the first day that I shot with Ed and Tim is on stage and he's playing in front of this big crowd. It's like I think it's the Carnegie Hall scene, and he's playing in front of this crowd, and he's just full on walking in, walking out. He's Bob, you know, and and then it wasn't until we got a bunch of in the can, obviously we at the end of the day we shot a bunch, and then um he would walk around and say, "Hey, how's it going?" Introduce himself and like say, "I'm a person." He's like, it's like, he's not he's not this diva or whatever. Um but it's hard work, man. Like whatever you need to stay in character, like you do. Like being number one on the list, that's a lot of responsibility. It's a lot of pressure. And so whatever they need to do, whatever they need,
Hmm.
great. But
Yeah.
but you do have to, I think, a really good number one, a really good captain of the football team, essentially. The
I use the football team. He's the
Yeah,
quarterback.
he's
Your
the quarterback
director is the coach.
coach.
So you
Yeah,
have the coach like overseeing everything, and then you
he's
have
the
your
quarterback.
linebackers. You have your,
Yeah,
you know, whatever I don't know, but like you have a quarterback. You have your wide receiver. You have like yeah.
exactly. And he at the end of the game went around and was like, "Hey, man, yeah, good game, you good game." So he checked in with everybody. He was that.
Yeah.
That's what I witnessed. And then there were days where it was more laid back. It would be a party scene, and we would have more time to, like, joke around, whatever. But
Sure.
um he was very extremely professional. uh yeah, yeah. I mean, I let him know. Like, I was like, "Man, um it wasn't hard to be in awe of you,
That's awesome.
of you as, Bob Dylan. It wasn't hard." And so I'm sure he appreciated that.
Yeah, I heard this from multiple people on the rap party where everyone was just like in awe of that he just transformed. By the way, I'll say it. I said it before when you were working on this movie, and I'll say it again. I really believe you guys are going to win some Oscars on this film.
I think he is. It's this film itself is going to get some attention.
Be nominated. Yeah, for
I think
sure.
he
I think it'll be
gets.
nominated for a bunch.
They've been
That's
talking,
my
but
huh?
what's crazy is like, I'm sure he's going to get a lot of attention and for this. But they've been talking about him in this role for like 3 or 4 Oscars past, because I remember watching the Oscars and he went up to present something, and they were saying, "Oh, he's working on this Bob Dylan film, and who knows, he'll maybe here next time." So this has been in the ether for a long time. So I would love to see what the culmination of it is. I hope it goes all the way with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Um Okay, so back to Fantastic Beasts for a hot second. Which Hogwarts house are you? When you were, where did you figure out you were which house you were?
Yeah, I did. I am. Um, I think I am a Hufflepuff. Uh,
Yeah, that tracks. That totally. I was gonna guess like Hufflepuff,
but I
100%.
think like I'm a on the cusp or something. I think I'm like a Griffin Puff or something.
You know what? I have some Hufflepuff tendencies, but normally I'm a Gryffindor.
Are
And
you?
maybe in my 20s, in my 20s, I was pretty ambitious and resourceful. I mean, I'm still resourceful, so maybe I might have some Slytherin tendencies as well. But I feel
Oh
like
shit.
so. Well, because determination. I'm definitely determined, but I feel like there is crossover between Gryffindor and Slytherin in terms of like resourcefulness or determination, where they're
Yeah.
like Gryffindor is like courageous, but I'm also very determined.
Yeah.
But I'm not. But I'm not like. I wouldn't. I don't. I wouldn't step on somebody's like because I'm such a team oriented person. So I think I'm definitely Gryffindor. When I've taken the test, it's been mostly Gryffindor. Sometimes it's been Hufflepuff. But when I see like also the answers, I'm like, oh, that easily could have been me in my 20s with some Slytherin. So I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, so what was Jude Law like? How is it working with Eddie Redmayne and having these like, huge, you work with these juggernauts. I mean, like you also to me, I mean, like you're a juggernaut, like it's just like it's amazing like what you can do and
I'm getting there.
I'm you're getting there. Yeah. Was it a big party on set like it was a Take Me Home Tonight or Take Me Home Tonight was just literally the vibe was a big party. So this was this very like a serious set? And also how was Ed Norton to work with? Was he feels very serious. Why so serious?
Serious. Wow. Yeah, Take Me Home Tonight was just
Like it was just like a house party. So we were just having good I was just having a good time. It was literally like just coming to a party every day. And but for a complete unknown, I mean that's for me that was I had a lot more pressure. This I'm surrounded. Like I want to make a good impression to to the people around me. So
These
it's
legends. Yeah.
yeah, the legends surrounding and
Yeah.
like Norton, who like Fight Club is one of my favorite movies. So I got to have that conversation with him, and so that was cool. Like um, to be able to like you imagine these conversations that you might have if you ever run into any of these people, and then you get to have them, and you're just like, okay, well, shit, I gotta think of other dreams to come up with. It's like it's crazy. And
Wait. So what did he say? What was his answer to Fight Club?
what was his answer to Fight Club? I basically said,
Yeah,
I
what
love
did you
the movie.
what did you ask? Huh? You love the movie.
Yeah, I was like, I love the movie, and he, what did he say, man? No, he was just cool. He was just cool about it. Yeah, he, I'm curious what people are gonna think of him in this movie. Um, because he is basically one of the guys who's trying to, because Bob Dylan, it's the moment where he switches from being this folk legend to going electric and just then doing his own thing. A complete unknown is from the song like a Rolling Stone, which is when he decided to shift. And so I'm so curious what people are going to think of him, because he is on the side of the people who are trying to pull him back. And so there are a lot of I just can't wait to freaking see the movie, man. I think it's gonna be cool. And then, so to answer your question about was it also a party? Yeah, it was also, even though there was all that pressure to do a good job and everything. it's freaking rock and roll, man. It was like some of the greatest music ever, and Tim's singing it great, and I can listen to that song over and over and over again like a Rolling Stone. It's one of my favorite songs ever,
Yeah.
and I heard it about a billion
It's
times, and I
so
still
good.
love it. Yeah, and
You still love it.
yeah, I still love it. And there were moments because he was performing live. Other people were performing live. Johnny Cash is a character in the movie. He's performing live, so it's like really cool to. There was a real party celebration um concert aspect to it, which was great. But this everyone knew. I think everyone that was there knew that this had a lot of potential uh to go and win a bunch of awards.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, and now back to Fantastic Beasts and Jude Law. So you got some time to spend with Grindelwald, Johnny Depp with his hair, and and how is Jude Law? What was Eddie Redmayne's process like? Was he also in character? Did you guys get to know each other? Like, because you guys had a bunch of scenes together.
Yeah. Had a lot of scenes with Eddie. Obviously, he in that first movie. Those are some of my favorites. Love that bank scene when we're chasing, like me and him chasing the Niffler is some of the greatest stuff ever. I think.
Oh, I love that. It's so fun. How did you
Yeah.
how did you do it? Because it's this imaginary thing. What was it, like a tennis ball that you guys are chasing? Like,
Yeah, I mean, there's different levels of it. So, like, if you have it in your hand, there's like a little bean bag, kind of squishy version of it. So it has weight to it. Um, and then sometimes they're basically like, it's right there. It's like pointing at nothing. They're pointing at nothing, and you're like, okay, it's there. And then sometimes, it's the full spectrum. Sometimes you get a tennis ball, sometimes you get like a full-on skeletal like sculpture with a puppeteer going boogie 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 boogie, like you get all sorts of like different levels of it. So it's amazing working on one of those projects. And then sometimes, like I said, you got to rely on like your just imagination. You're like, it's basically in that vicinity. And but what's great is that what's great about it is that the technology is such now where it doesn't have to be so precise. Like they told me that on day one. They were like, yeah, and you like there's that, for instance, there's that scene where in my apartment and all these animals and the Murtlap jumps out and bites me and I was like, so where do I look? They're like, oh, you look wherever you want and we'll match you. And I'm like, holy shit, okay. It was such a freeing thing, like, oh, because I was on other things before that where you had to be precise or you looked crazy. And they were like, no, no, no. Because we're building this with you, we'll match where you have to go. And I was like, this is incredible. So and then sometimes you did have to be precise, but they gave you all of the indication that you needed.
yeah.
By the way, I have a podcast that you were on as well that people should listen to. It's the Dan Fogler 40 Experience podcast. I've interviewed all of these people, including this wonderful person that's interviewing me, as well as Jude Law and Eddie Redmayne and like a whole slew of other people from like tons
I have to
from
hear this. You need to put it out. You need to like remind people. I had no idea. I need to hear it. I mean, I loved our conversation because we went into astral projecting and we talked about this is before we even like actually met each other, and we were talking about like the mystical spirituality of life and going out there and the astral projecting and how like
back again.
we can
project
shield,
out.
protect ourselves. Yeah. And like, how like you need like a barrier and a shield because if you're too sensitive, like sometimes like I'll like gain weight to be, I'm like, it's like too much of getting that inundation.
Yeah, damn, we went down some rabbit holes, didn't we?
We really did. We really did.
Uh, well, I'll go wherever, but Jude Law is awesome. I would highly recommend working with the man. He is just like charm incarnate, and like they don't really make him like that anymore, you know. And I don't know, I just feel like he's like from another time or something.
How so?
Uh
Like that you're saying they don't make them like that anymore. How so? Like I'm curious what you mean by that.
who else do you know that's like Jude?
I've never met Jude, so I don't know.
Yeah, but you've seen him. He's kind of a one of a kind.
Yeah. You're one of a kind, though.
Yeah. Yeah. My time was probably in the 40s or something like that. Like,
Oh, 100%. We knew each other back in the 40s. That's definitely my like.
So,
yeah, that makes sense. You were a gangster in your past life, right? That was
I was told by a very
Anya. Anya?
yes, you do remember her name. Right. You guys have spoken. She told me about
She said I was a king in my past life or
maybe
something.
yeah. That track.
I was
That
like,
track.
all right,
I'll take it.
all right.
What
I'll
did she
take it.
say? She said I was a pirate, I was a gangster, I was like all these different things, and each one of them, it was funny. She basically like said all these different like genres of movies. It's like, oh, okay, I was all of these different characters, but they all had heart injuries. They all either got shot in the heart or stabbed in the heart or got an arrow through the heart. That's what she said. And she was just like, just protect your heart this time around. I was like, okay, I'll see what I can do.
Wow. She also opened up your chakras, right? Did she like do
Yeah.
what did she do? How did she open up all your chakras? And the minute that happened, is that when you booked? She even predicted that you were going to be a part of the Harry Potter series. She was like, "Oh, I predicted. She said you're going to be
She
a part of
didn't
the
tell
Harry
me.
Potter
She
world."
didn't tell me. Did she tell you that? Did she tell you that?
She told me that. That's
Oh,
what she remembers. But
that's interesting. Oh, maybe she did say that, but I don't know. I didn't.
yeah.
Uh, what she that was when I was directing this movie called Don Peyote, and basically she did like what I would describe um oh, I didn't believe in chakras before that, and I did after. I'll tell you that right now. It was crazy. So she had these like it sounds so hood
Out there.
out there,
Woo woo.
woo.
Yeah.
But I was at this party, and I was directing and doing writing this movie, and being in Don Peyote, which is about when I was in my early 30s, and I was definitely going through kind of this like spiritual awakening, and I was like, oh shit, I gotta document this, because it was at least interesting to me, I was like, so then like a bolt of lightning, the first scene that we were shooting was this big party scene, and she was there. She walks up to me at this party, and it was very, very documentary style, and maybe a piece of this made it into the movie. But what she did was she had this like bag full of crystals, and she said like pick a bunch of crystals, 7, right? So I was like, okay, yeah, sure, whatever. And I put my hand in, I pull out 7 crystals, and she's like, awesome, okay. And then she takes each individual crystal and she put them, like a couple inches away from each of my chakras. So I had my eyes closed. I was like, I'm not going to give her anything. Because I was skeptical at that point. So I closed my eyes. I'm like, I'm not going to let her read anything off of me. Oh, she's a psychic. Okay. So I closed my eyes, and she says, okay, we're starting. And she puts the first crystal there. And I felt inside my body of like a large amount of energy come on where she had the crystal. Then she took the next crystal and like building up all the ladder of my chakras. Each time she put a crystal, well, look, there's freaking fireworks going off here. It's crazy as I'm describing this. Can you hear them? It's really
Wow.
can't really see them, but
I wonder what the party's about.
no, they do fireworks here all the freaking time. By the way, if you didn't know that about the London area, so get to the top chakras, and I'm feeling the stack of energy rising, and I get to the top, and she opens up my third eye real wide, and I felt. I mean, this is the diluted version of this. If you want the full version of it, I've definitely talked about it many times on my podcast, but she basically what she did is she opened up my chakras and she left it open to the point where and I can feel the energy now. It's crazy. Just talking about it. Uh Having a Kundalini response very soon after that. And if you haven't had that, I highly recommend it. It's the most blissful thing I've ever felt in my life. And
Was she chanting? Was she saying anything? What was the
no,
intention? Was she just
she was like very clinical.
was she performing Reiki? Like,
Oh no. She literally had the crystal. She's like, I've got this crystal, and I'm gonna put it next to your, your lower chakra. It sounds funny, but it's like, so she puts it there, and then I literally felt the energy. What does that energy feel like? It's like kind of like a swirling, blissful energy.
yeah. It's kind of like breath work. If you've done breath work where it's just like all connected and you feel so much, right? But it's like you're blissed out.
It's
A fuzzy feeling. It's like a fuzzy, shroomy feeling.
it's like the feeling you have, like the ants crawling on your limb if it's been um if your hand fell asleep and then you start to get the blood flowing back and you feel like all of that tingly all over times about
Whoa.
times about a million. So imagine that energy.
That's crazy. And then what was the superpower that came with that? Because it kind of
Superpowers.
you said that
Well,
like wasn't it? Isn't that kind of what happened? Like I feel like life changed for you after that.
well, you have that kind of experience and you go, oh, that shit exists. You know what I mean? You're like, oh, and I felt it, and then you try to find other people who have felt it, and you're like, oh, okay, that people have, this is a thing. This is like an ancient thing. And you do the research and you realize that tracks very far back.
Wow.
And you look at, for instance, a lot of the symbology when you look at the staff and the two snakes on the side of an ambulance, the caduceus. A lot of people don't even realize they're surgeons and they're chopping people open, but they're really supposed to be inducing the kundalini. That's the symbol of the medical symbol is the kundalini rising.
Whoa.
And so if you have a kundalini response, the reason it feels like the snake's rising is because watch The Matrix, and you'll realize we are batteries. We are very powerful batteries. If you do acupuncture and you look at these meridian maps, you realize, whoa, there are currents of energy flowing through you. And if you're able to connect to these currents of energy, you can focus them very powerfully, like chi or whatever. So the reason it feels like serpents is because I believe that your chakras are located is kind of like a zigzag formation up your body. So that's why it feels like if you felt it, you feel it climbing up your body like that. And then you look at the pharaohs the headdress with the two snakes coming out. That's the Kundalini. That's to symbolize that they're enlightened, that they have the Kundalini shooting out of their third eyes. So
Wow.
what I think it did for me was rip that freaking old fail right away, and I basically I get a bullshit meter that's pretty damn good.
I love it. So the wait. So
They're dragging me away. They're dragging me away. I got.
No, don't come back.
No, you know,
Come back.
this kind of talk is happening on all sorts of podcasts.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, these are the kind of conversations that I love having. I mean, doesn't pharmakia, so pharmacy means pharmakia, isn't that like sorcery or something in Greek? Pharmakia, sorcery?
Yeah, it's yeah.
It's a poisonous spring near the river. Interesting. Okay,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
a whole. Okay, I don't know.
There's
Okay,
a lot
so
of words.
Jude Law.
There's a lot of
There's
words.
what?
There's a lot of words in our language that sound like entrance.
Whoa.
Entrance is literally entrance. Booch.
Wow, skadoosh.
There's a lot. That's the other guy. There's a lot of there's a lot of language like that. Yeah, it's because yeah, each language is a derivative of the other language, and so there's a lot of funky wordplay going on there.
Yeah. Okay, so Jude Law is from a different time.
Well, it seems like that. It seems like, you know, you could find that guy in Shakespeare's court too, you know. I feel.
Yeah. And when you were working with him, what did he come to the table with? Like what were his ideas, and were you just sort of like kind of breaking it down when you spoke to him on your podcast? What I have to listen. I'm so excited. I can't wait to hear this.
Yeah, he's very just on a surface level. The first few times I saw him, I was like, is this guy Kryptonian? Like I felt like his eyes were so blue. I was just like, wait a minute. He's not from this planet. So it took me a while just to be able to like look him in the eye. And then you know, he brings this he's just like a great bloke, as they say here, in the sense that he brings this charm, this swagger, this thing. It's like an old school kind of thing that you get with a lot of those great British actors. You know, it's like he's a star. And so some people have that, and he has it. So,
yeah, totally.
Yeah, and it's like he can wear jeans and like a scarf, and then suddenly he's on GQ, and it was just like that's just his thing. It's like, and I wear, people are like, "What's the matter with you? Tuck your shirt in," you know. But he's got that thing, and so there's that, which was like a perfect.
He's charisma. Charisma. He's got the riz, as the kids say.
Yeah, and that's the kids say. And so what a great choice for Dumbledore. And he's like a kid, you know. He's got that playful kid energy, endless youthful energy. But also, like I said, he's like eternal. He's got that wise soul thing going on there, and like a jazzy thing. You know, there's like a musicality to his step.
I love that.
It was great to watch. It was great to just be around, you know. And he was always trying to do he was great, man. Because he was always trying to perform real practical magic. Like do like, you know, like make stuff disappear. Like, hey, and he did. Like, a lot of it ended up in the movie, and so I love that he would like strove to do that, to like make real magic.
I love that.
Yeah,
Oh my God. So he actually, that's such a nice
yeah,
touch.
yeah, it's a great touch. Yeah, and the guy's a dancer. It comes across. He's very light, Gene Kelly. Very. It's lovely. It's a lovely kind of.
I love
Oh, that's
that.
what I mean, like old school kind of thing.
That makes sense. He is very light on his feet.
Yeah.
And Eddie Redmayne, what was his process like? Was
Yeah.
was he very method? Like he's so interesting. Like watching, I was sitting in the front row of Cabaret, and at one point, I got brought up to the stage where it's an interactive sort of
Oh,
experience. So it was
shit.
me and somebody else.
Yeah.
Where in the intermission, I'm suddenly dancing with all the cabaret
Fun,
people,
yeah.
and I'm just like, oh my God. I had bought an extra ticket hoping that a friend would go. It ended up being like by myself, so I had 2 tickets, and then there was this lady who crashed my table, but I was kind of like, I'm like, I don't know. She's like, can I sit here? And I'm like, I'm not sure yet. And then she kind of charmed me. She was this older lady, and she was really sweet. Or I think her name was also Susie or Susan. And I was kind of like, fuck it. All right, come on, sit down. And then literally it was a weird karmic thing that happened instantly because I let her like sit in this front row. We're in the front row. Like it's with the tables. You get these like private little tables and you get food delivered to you. It's like very cool.
Right.
And then instantly after that moment, I get brought up on stage. So I wonder if there was like an instant karmic moment. And I was like, oh my God. And it was like, it was really fun. They're like, we love you. And I was like, oh my God. And then Eddie just was sitting there. So as the show starts, I get brought back to my seat, and Eddie is just staring at me, like this, kind of like, ooh, like literally just, he's right there. He's sitting on the edge of like the stage, and so as people would be performing, he would look at the audience, but he's just staring at me for like several minutes, and now. And then I was suddenly like, okay, go away, stop looking at me. So but he never broke character. He was in the character staring at me, just like, like he was like a parrot.
It was the same thing when he was Newt. It's crazy. He was just staring at me, looking at me. No, I'm kidding. No, it was. No, he was probably like, "Do I know her? How do I know her?
Yeah,
I know her."
By the way, but it was unbelievable. It was like a Grammy show. It felt like I felt like I was on the front row of the Grammys or the VMAs of the most amazing performance, where everyone was giving it their fucking all. And what was really interesting was in that connection of the audience, they could feel everything that I was feeling. So I was like trying to give them like good vibes. So I was like sending good vibes. I'm like, you got this. And the minute they would get out of like, they would be in their head, and I could feel them being in their head. And I was like, no. I was like, think about this. Think about like whatever this like trauma happened or whatever. Cause they would like get out of it. I'm like, I'm not believing you. Like, here, send this. And then suddenly they would like dial it in. So there was there's this like telepathic, thing. I don't know if you like, when you're performing on stage, like you just can feel everyone, you can feel the audience. And so when I've been up on stage, you're trying to like I'm like, you got this, sending good. But Eddie he was impenetrable. Like he was so in it. You could not, like, that was really interesting where some of the actors could be so sensitive to all the stimuli or the energy you were sending your way. But he was so... You could not get through. Like that was what was he was so immersed in it, and it was like he was not affected whatsoever. So it was like very interesting. He was like highly disciplined and highly trained. I know it's a working theory I have. I don't know if you felt that. I'm curious what your take is on that.
Let me think. Okay, let me think for a second. Let me think. If you haven't seen the show,
I highly recommend seeing Cabaret because I saw it and I was like just next to where you were sitting. So I was in like a regular like theater seat, but I was so jealous of the people that were around in like the cabaret, like cafe seating. I was like, oh, that's awesome. And you got to order drinks and stuff, and that,
Yeah, you got to order drinks and the food, and it was
yeah,
like you were like literally you were a part of the show.
yeah, I love that. And I'm wondering, and because it happens in the round, so they have this like little, you know, couple like three-tiered birthday cake that rises and lowers and it's really kind of cool. That's in the
Yeah, the stage was
stage.
this rising. Oh,
Yeah.
it's amazing. It
And
was incredible.
yeah, and the theater is really cool. It's really very vaudevillian. Eddie puts on an incredible performance. And it's heart-wrenching. Like,
Heart-wrenching.
yeah. Everybody.
Bawled my eyes out.
Yeah,
Oh.
Jesus. You know who got me, who I've been watching since Cheers is BB Newworth. Okay.
She was amazing. I know everyone loved her. We're like, oh my God, love, goddess.
What a lovely performance.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was, I'm familiar with the Joel Grey, movie version. Like everyone loves that version, and they
Yeah.
they definitely made it their own. Like if you're gonna do it again, you
Yeah.
got to make it your own. And they really leaned on the there was some darkness in there, and I was like, oh wow. It
Yeah.
was just knocked me out. Um
And Eddie kind of jumped into that. Like he fully,
yeah,
like
he's
he was suddenly the narrator, but then he was embodying the Nazi. And you're like, what? Well, that's a turn.
yeah,
Like,
that was crazy, man. That was yeah. I mean that happens in a in the movie. It's more campy, and this is like it's very it's dark, and he plays this very rigid, almost robotic. See, that's what you have to when you look at Eddie and what he does, where he gets his it's what he did as Hawking, Stephen Hawking, where he contorted his body into the wheelchair, and he's becoming known for this contortion. He's got this like real
mhm.
um he does this real rigid dance throughout, which is you have to just be in awe of it. And so working with him
Yeah.
on Fantastic Beasts, um the again, he was very into the physicality of it all, every aspect of it, how he walked, how he held himself, how he held the creatures. It's a real masterclass in just the nuance of that,
The
where
specificity, right?
yeah, where he is so specific and delicate about it. And I'm coming from the other side of the spectrum, which is more of a broader thing, and then the two of them come together, in a nice way in the film. I,
Totally.
yeah, I love working with Eddie, uh, and yeah,
Was he pretty method about it? Like Timothy?
um, Eddie, Eddie did live for 5 years in a magical forest, I think. Um, no, I don't know. Method, I think, I don't think he's like as extreme method. Like method is, I don't even know if Timothy is full method. It's focus. Like what they're doing is focus.
Yeah.
Like method. Like what is
Well, it's like not breaking character. Like
like
if you're
Day
playing,
Lewis? Oh,
like
right,
I,
right, right. Like Day Lewis.
do you know what I'm
Like
saying? It's Yeah, like there's versions where it's like if I'm playing a character that's a little further away, then I have to kind of stay in that like space.
Yeah.
Or if there's an accent, I'll stay in character of that like
Yes.
accent, kind of that cadence. But I'll still try to be me, but it'll be like this new personality has like grown out of like whatever, and then I find new elements of this character, like, you know, that I'm like, oh, I'm finding new aspects. Oh, this is really interesting. You know, it's like,
Right.
and also for you, do you ever go there with that process?
I've never done full method where I was walking around and telling people, call me Ralph, damn it. Like I was never that guy. I've always come from the theater point of view where it's just like, guys, we're putting on a show. Like, and there's other people here, you know. There's a guy holding that light over there, and he has a name, and he's not demanding that I call him anything other than what his name is, and so and so if I want him to put the light on me and be nice to me later, I should be nice to him. And then sometimes you do that by breaking character and saying, "How you doing today, Bubba? You doing good? Nice. All right, let's get back into this." And
Yeah.
because it's very, I find that to be extremely selfish, and if you
Mhm.
can't, if you don't, like, we're actors. Like, if you don't have the ability
Mhm.
to turn it on and turn it off,
Mhm.
like, maybe, you know what? I never fully submerged myself in that. Like, so
Yeah.
maybe there is like some kind of thing that happens where you're so fucking in character. But at the end of the day, you should be able to do that without making everybody
Yeah, I think
call
it's
you by
when
your name.
if you're playing a crazy character and then you have to, like, when I've heard those stories where I'm like, suddenly you're, you know, making it really difficult for everyone else involved, like that's like unnecessary,
Yeah.
you know, like that doesn't need to be, we don't, yeah.
There's something
Like when I think of like Dustin Hoffman, he's very method. And I remember the two schools of thought. I forget which actor.
Olivia.
It was like that famous, oh, okay. And he was like, try acting, you know, when he was like running, he had to run for a marathon or something. And he
that's a perfect
fully was like
example.
running. And then he was like,
Full
his
on,
school was
fully
like, no,
late.
just,
He slept in it.
yeah.
He was late to set. He kept everyone waiting. I mean, he was number one on the set, but in his thinking at that time, well, I mean, Dustin's like, well, it'll go faster if I'm just perfectly in the moment, and then when I get there, everyone will just roll, and then, but that's not how it works.
No,
You got Olivier.
not when you're working with a team. When you're,
Yeah,
when you're working with a team.
and you're working with legends like Olivier who are waiting for you on,
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
just doesn't work like that, man. Like I appreciate you, you're an artist, but try to figure out how to
Sure.
be an artist on on time or near it. We're all trying to get this done,
Yeah.
Because here's the thing: if you sleep in a bathtub and you show up late, and you're like, okay, it's perfectly in character, and then no one's fucking there because everyone went home, then what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah. No, totally. By the way, I love Dustin Hoffman. I had a
love
moment with
Dustin
Dustin Hoffman. Yo. By the way, like
he's a
shout out to
pioneer. He had to do that with Olivier in order for us to
for us to run. He walked so other people could run, and like, but
exactly.
I was actually at Dustin Hoffman's house. I know his son, and so we were hanging out, and it was like right after Thanksgiving, and so then suddenly Dustin approaches me. He's like, "Hey, you need to eat. Why are you not eating? Like, here, have some food." And he just kept piling on the plate for me, and I was like, okay. It was like the leftovers, and then Jonah Hill was there, and I was like, "Hey, Jonah Hill," and he was just so shy. He was like, "Hi, hey, how you doing?" And it was a very interesting. It was a very interesting moment. But Dustin couldn't be more generous and lovely.
That's
and
tell him I got a
how
I got a script for him.
you have a script? Can we talk about this? Okay, we don't have to talk about your script, but I think what's really interesting is you've integrated play and integrated acting into your real life. And are you able to talk about that? With your dad?
Oh, yeah. I mean, they say write what you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I've written a play that is about my family, and then I've written and can also be a movie, but I wrote a movie that's loosely based on circumstances in my family. And yeah, I mean there's some there's some really great roles in it for I wrote it for someone like a legend.
Dustin Hoffman, he would be a
Like Dustin
legend.
Hoffman.
That would be perfect. That would be
Um,
perfect. I want this for you.
yeah. Uh, the a lot, there's a handful of people that can play that role. But
But I was just gonna say what's so beautiful about it is
did I send it to you to read or something?
no, not yet. But what was so beautiful that you told me about it, of your experience of moving through and handling Alzheimer's or dementia, is it's the yes and game of like, which is just such a mind-blowing, like graceful way to handle something really. I don't know. I just think that that's like super profound.
Mm-hmm.
Because, when my grandmother had Alzheimer's, like that is a way, instead of getting frustrated, you're finding a way of like to exist in that. And it's the yes and game, which I thought was just such a profound, it's a beautiful life, like that's sort of the same sort of like using your imagination, but also like handling something with dignity and grace. And I think is so beautiful.
Yeah, I've often, whenever I've had some kind of trauma in my life, I've often siphoned it through creativity. I felt like it was always cathartic. That was my way of working through it. That was my kind of therapist. And I feel like it's just like Don Peyote. I was going through something, and so I was like, this is interesting. Um, as an actor, I want to explore the emotions of this. And because as actors, and like, what is our art?
Yeah.
It's the study of humanity. Like, it's basically, we're we're basically um archaeologists of human emotion. So, which is a very, you know, valiant, very, very, uh, like, whenever people are just like, oh, we're just actors, whatever. It's just like, yeah, but there was a reason that in the king's court, that the jester, the fool, was often the only guy that the fucking king could go to give him a straight answer. Uh,
Yeah, he could only say the truth and wouldn't cut off his head. He could go in front of the
yeah,
king, be like, tell the truth. And
yeah,
that's what's so great about Shakespeare, is like all these stories from way back in the day, was you couldn't kill art, because you could reflect back the truth of what was happening and then try to elevate and then try to, continue to move up in consciousness.
yeah. It's so what we do when I'm going through new emotions and finding new chapters in my life, and I for some reason I find that it's very helpful for me to turn it into a play or art, or so I can just um, you like work through it, and then so that you can move on from it, or at least you can kind of tame it.
Yeah. I feel like I do that all the time. I feel like it's like I have several projects like that where it's like you're working at a problem and I'm like, okay, I'm working out a same pattern and I want to elevate to get to the next level and then would write the ending. So sort of it's like manifestation where you're like, you're writing about, okay, what's currently happening? What are my patterns? How do I manifest like what I want to happen? How do I, get to that next level? I don't know how. I'm stuck in this pattern. And then suddenly you find yourself like writing the ending of like how to, um, you know, get to that next level and elevate yourself and move up in higher consciousness. And I've done that. Or it's like my mother passing away, having to write about that and alchemize that. And,
Yeah, you're doing the same
we,
thing. Yeah.
same thing where it's like, and then it's so interesting because, I've expelled and wrung out my emotions from that experience. So it's sort of like a towel. Like if I was like a wet towel that I was like filled with, just tears. So in that process, I like wrang myself dry of like expelling all that emotion, just fully like, and it's so incredibly cathartic. Like it's, I find it to be totally life-changing. And so do you find like it's an alchemical experience every time you get on set?
Uh, well, I love that you're using the alchemical thing. Have you read The Alchemist? Have you read it?
Yeah, long, long, long time ago.
Yeah, I always reference that book
Yeah.
um all the time. Because
Because it's always the magic is in your backyard.
yeah, it's the idea that we have that our heart speaks to us, um, and our gut speaks to us, and that if we don't listen to it, we often go on the wrong path, and you're on the right path.
So much.
Yeah. And you're on, and if you watch out for the signals and you're actually observant and you are aware of the synchronicities, um, then you're on the right path, and it's a parable, it's a story, it's what we do. It's a great story. Uh, and it's a great story to live by. Um, Following your instincts, and
Yeah.
as an actor to follow your instincts is so fucking important. And to be able to be in control of these emotions, and being aware and sensitive to all of these signals, um is so important. So it is alchemy, it's chemistry, and sometimes you get gold. You never know what you're gonna get when you come to a project. Everyone's hoping that it's gonna be gold. uh but
Totally.
um but you can only control what you bring. So you control your emotions, and you control your ideas that you're bringing, and your connection to the script and everything. And so you're an alchemist, and you're arriving to set, and you're there to help make gold. Uh, and hopefully, that's what you walk away with. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, because what are we? We're dealing with, ether. We're dealing with magic. Like, we're dealing with emotions. Like, that's our currency, man. That's like boogity boogity boogity.
It's true.
Yeah.
No, it's so true. When you were first starting, when you were first starting out, I think you said this to me before that people like had ideas, of like where to put you in a certain box. And then I think you kind of were like, nah, that's not what I am.
Um,
How, like, what were did you have any blocks starting out, and you kind of chose your own path? Cause like some people
right.
have to like move through their mom's stuff or their dad's stuff or like whatever trauma. And, did you have any was like, it kind of seemed like when you started, just, you kind of blew the gates off and you were like balls of fury. I mean, you're amazing in that. Like, I was like, oh, who's this guy? He's amazing.
I had to prove myself a little bit there. Like
Sure.
so the signal that I got in college, I went to acting school, conservatory, whatever. And so they label you pretty early on. So I was a character actor, and I was happy. I love that. I was like, yes, I am a character
Yeah.
actor. Wonderful. Um, and then they were just like, you're not gonna work until you're 38. I was just like, what? Like when you're 20, like 19, and you're just like, what? And you hear,
I gotta wait 20 years?
yeah, you're like, what? No. It's so thank God they said that, because it put a fire under my ass to prove them wrong, that I would work sooner. So I graduated college, and it took me about 8 years, to get onto Broadway, and that's when things started happening. But yeah, so there was a lot of hustling, and I find that I'm constantly hustling. Like I am just, succumb to the fact that I will be hustling as a character actor my entire life, if I want to make ends meet, and that's just the way it is. And so I obviously broke in well before I was 38. Probably about 10 years earlier. I
Yeah.
started breaking in around 25. That's when I broke in.
You blew the doors off. Like it was like, Take Me Home Tonight and Balls of Fury. And it was like, oh my God, scene stealer galore. And you were starring in these films.
Well, yeah, I mean, I did the Spelling Bee show on Broadway, and then that opened up a lot of doors. And I did a slew of comedies that are now in like the cult,
Cult
cult
classic. Cult
classic
classic.
realm, which is great. Very happy with that. A lot of my favorite films did not do well out of the gate. And that happens. And so very proud of all of those movies that I did. Maybe there's one in there that I that I regret, but whatever. And then nowadays, like really, like, so then they were right. Like when I hit 38, around that time, that's when I started getting presented the roles that I have been recently been getting presented, like the Coppolas and the Albert Grossmans and the Jacob Kowalskis, and they were absolutely right about that. They were like, I didn't really work. Of course, I had to put the work in order to, I couldn't just sit on my ass until I was 38 and just be like, all right.
Just all right. Wait, I'm gonna wait.
Yeah, no, you got to build up a whole, career, a whole legend for yourself, and then they allow you to audition for such things. But yeah, so I right now I am in my I'm like very happy with the roles I'm playing. I'm right where I should be.
Yeah. We're gonna have to wrap this up soon, but I just need to hear the story again, and I need the audience to hear it. Your SNL story, which sounded so hilarious and amazing.
The one,
You have an SNL story, right?
uh,
The SNL party?
yeah, okay. So it's like basically my only one, which is so I mean, that is like, you ever seen the episode of Looney Tunes where Bugs Bunny goes to the Copacabana?
where Bugs Bunny like sneaks into the Copacabana and everywhere everywhere he looks. I mean, he's Bugs Bunny, which is fine, but everywhere he looks at every single table is like, Bogart, and like, it's like Marilyn Monroe, like all of these different like amazing different is it anyway, there's these stars of that time. And that's what it felt like. I felt like Bugs Bunny at the Copacabana. So I I did a show called Secrets and Lies with Ryan Phillippe, and he and I had a really good time on that show, and I made him laugh a bunch, and he said, "You know what? I got a +1 to SNL 40th anniversary, and they're coming up on the 50th. So this is
They're 50th. The 50th is
crazy."
coming. Oh, you got to get another invite.
Yeah. I'm gonna sneak in again, but oh wow! So it was crazy. He said, "I got
So you get an invite and
no
then
no."
you roll up, right?
So we roll up, and I'm all like out in a black suit. I look like a blues brother, And then he like the two of us walk up, and the woman there says, "You don't have a +1." And Philippi is like, "What are you talking about? I just assumed I had a +1." And she was just like, and she looks me up and down and is just like, "I guess you're famous enough." And she's like, "You can only go backstage." And she gives me a badge, and it says backstage on it. And my eyes are like, what? Greatest thing she ever could have said to me. I was basically just backstage watching the shows from the wings, people walking in, walking out. I, I knew people, like I knew Chris Walken, like he was like, "Hey Dan, like hanging out with me. Come, we'll have some wine, we'll relax." And then sitting with Chris, which is amazing to get that kind of like street cred to be like, "Yes, I'm allowed to be here," And then seeing like people like you know, like 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 Mike Myers and Dana Carvey being put into makeup for Wayne and Garth. Like I had a moment where I was able to literally turn the corner and see that they were getting put into makeup, and I literally got to go, "I'm not worthy." And then
Oh, worthy?
there was
Did
like
you not?
I
I'm
had
not worthy.
the most surreal. I had the moments like that with it. It was so surreal. Okay, cut to the party. And then watching like my favorite stars like walk off and just like going to their heroes and just being like, "What do you think? And seeing them have these like intimate, like like sensitive moments where they're like, wow, they really, they're insecure sometimes too. And like, oh my God, like live. It was such an experience seeing for the last 40 years, not just actors and comedians and singers, every politician, every sports star, every fucking person that's ever
Been on SNL. Every single person who's ever hosted, any person who's been on the cast,
yeah.
every single person. How many? What is it,
Imagine
like thousands of people?
imagine it's just a sea of people. Like I was like it was a cartoon. I was reaching for like, the
Brad Pitt, Angelina Jolie, like every
Sigourney Weaver.
was Brad Pitt, Matt Damon. Oh my God.
Okay, so this is the most surreal moment. So I'm sitting there, and it's just a sea of people. On stage is Jimmy Fallon singing Roadhouse Blues, like one of my favorite songs, and he's on it, and it's Paul McCartney and Paul Simon and Bill Murray on the tambourine, and like an entire John Goodman, like this crazy band of lunatics who formed this, just like house band for the evening, and they're performing for us. And I kind of knew Jimmy out of nowhere. This is the most surreal moment. That's what I'm trying to boil this down to. So fucking spotlight hits me. And Jimmy goes, "We got someone in the audience. I want them to come up on stage." And I'm like, "Me? You want me to fucking me?" And he's just like, "Get the fuck out of the way." And I turn, and there's Prince. Okay, all
fucking Prince.
2 foot,
Fucking Prince.
2'2" Prince, and he's right here. right next to me. And I'm like, this is his spotlight. Holy crap. And I see him and I go, oh my God, I'm so sorry. So,
Get out of.
he puts his hand on my shoulder. He's like, it's good, baby. You're funny. And I was like, oh my God, Prince just told me.
Prince just
That's
said,
it. I'm out of here. Goodbye, everybody. Good night. And I just
good night, sir.
And just watch him perform Party like it's 1999. Like, it doesn't make sense to me, even explaining.
What a bucket list moment. That's a bucket list moment. That's like surreal.
That's like 900 different people's bucket lists. Like, it's like they all combined. Like, I want all these different people. It was, I mean, it doesn't even, it doesn't compute in my brain right now.
You still can't even compute it.
It was crazy. It was crazy.
My God. And did Ryan go up? I worked with Ryan. We did a movie, but did
Ryan was
he?
right next to me at that moment, but we were kind of like, he'd disappear, I disappear, we come back and be like, holy shit, did you see this person? It was crazy, man. It was crazy.
That's amazing.
I gotta call him up. I'm gonna call him up right after this. Is like, so you think you can get me into the 50th? We'll make it like
I need to hear, and then you have to come back, and you have to come back on and tell me the story of what happens. The new story.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Dan, I love you to pieces. You're just amazing. I want to talk more, but I know we have to wrap this up. We've been going over. It was over 2 hours, 2 and something, 2 and 10 minutes, 2:15. Yeah. Yeah. I think we covered we covered the chakras. And I think like what's really interesting is, I want to do the spirituality because I feel like you're very spiritual and the alchemical experience and, you know, and how you can turn trauma into something really, you know, with your art and you change it. You change your relationship instead of being at the will of chaos. You use the chaos and then fucking like Matrix. I mean, I didn't even get to talk about that you're an amazing martial artist, that you introduced me to martial arts, that I work with Dan 3 times a week. Dan Anderson. Shout out to fucking Dan. Oh my God, hold on. Shout out real quick. Your martial arts scene of the short that he did blows my mind. It's so impressive. It's so amazing. No one also, like, people don't know that you're not just like a fucking ninja wizard with your mind, but also a ninja wizard with like your body, like fucking like using that energy. And it's so, and you've been training for like many, many years, right? For like 20 years.
Fuck yeah, man. It's been almost 20 years now. Yeah. I started just for exercise. Yeah, like around 2005. Yeah, you're right. And it's that's wild. Like, I'm not going for any belts or anything. I do it just to try and stay flexible, you know, flexible body, flexible mind. But after a while, you learn a bunch of stuff. You learn how to beat the crap out of people if you have to. Yeah. It's helpful to know.
Yeah.
You know, it's helpful to know how to defend yourself. And it's like it's great exercise.
You know, it was interesting when we were walking, we were just going on like a walkabout and you like just tuned in and talk about synchronicities because I had been talking to my friend about learning martial arts and you literally just like looked at me. You were like smoking some weed. You're like, you want to do martial arts, don't you? And I was like, sort of like, I felt like I was in the middle, like I felt like I was at Hogwarts or something where I was like, how did you know? Like, you're just like,
yeah, that was a good
day.
I remember that day. Yeah.
And you were like, it was kind of like a gloomy day. And you're like, I'm going to take you to meet Dan. And it literally, you picked up on it. It was so incredible because I had all this like energy and trauma from losing my mom and needed to alchemize it and needed to like have a place to put my shadow. You know, she needed to exist. She needed to I needed to, you know, my what is it? My like, is if, a wildling, the ginger wildling from Game of Thrones and Harley Quinn, if they had a baby that like had a love child, that would be my shadow. So, so I feel like, you know, and it
helps to physically get it out of your body.
Get it out of your body. And that, like, you intuitively knew that. You knew. It was just it's so amazing. You're the best. You're just the best.
Good, I'm a writer.
You know.
You're not so
we have
bad
to do this
yourself,
again.
kid. You're not so bad yourself.
Thanks. Man, when are you back in town?
That is a good question. I'm in Ireland right now. Well, I'm working on a show in Ireland, and
That's awesome. And what's your new show? Can you talk about it
yeah, it's
real quick before we?
the Rainmaker. It's this like Grisham series.
Oh, amazing.
Got a fun cast, and I'm playing a fun part. And yeah, I'm working on that through March, and then I think the earliest I would come back to the States is like spring or early summer, something like that.
That's awesome. Wow. I missed your face. This was awesome. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll thanks for something. I don't know how I'm supposed to end it. I don't know. Whatever, it doesn't matter. Thanks, guys. Hi, guys. If you like this episode, please subscribe, like, and comment so you can see more of our latest episodes and we can get on that algorithm.
A whole nother level.